You're watching Reality Check. Just days after the Supreme Court strongly criticized the centre's confused vaccine policy, where the centre, the states and private players are all bidding for a limited supply of vaccines, arbitrary and irrational, the Prime Minister went on national television to announce a U-turn, reversing the centre's chaotic vaccine policy and going back to the earlier policy, where the centre will procure vaccines for itself and for the states, and private sector will procure the remaining 25%. So 75% centre and states and 25% to the private sector. Now, ordinarily, any government reversing or course correcting a policy that was going off the rails is to be welcomed, and many people indeed have welcomed the Prime Minister's U-turn. But he didn't just stop it simply announcing a reversal. And this is why the reality check, because in his speech, he actually targeted the states, holding them to blame for forcing the centre's hand. Otherwise, he said, everything was going hunky-dory. Let's listen.
16 जनवरी से शुरू होकर अप्रैल महीने के अंत तक भारत का वैक्सीनेशन कार्यक्रम मुख्यतः केंद्र सरकार की देखरेख में ही चला। सभी को मुफ्त वैक्सीन लगाने के मार्ग पर देश आगे बढ़ रहा था। देश के नागरिक भी अनुशासन का पालन करते हुए अपनी बारी आने पर वैक्सीन लगवा रहे थे। इस बीच कई राज्य सरकारों ने फिर कहा कि वैक्सीन का काम डिसेंट्रलाइज किया जाए और राज्यों पर छोड़ दिया जाए। तरह तरह के स्वर उठे, जैसे कि वैक्सीनेशन के लिए एज ग्रुप क्यों बनाए गए। दूसरी तरफ किसी ने कहा कि उम्र की सीमा आखिर केंद्र सरकार ही क्यों तय करे। कुछ आवाजें तो ऐसी भी उठी कि बुजुर्गों का वैक्सीनेशन पहले क्यों हो रहा है। भांति भांति के दबाव भी बनाए गए। देश के मीडिया के एक वर्ग ने इसे कैंपेन के रूप में भी चलाया। साथियों, काफी चिंतन मनन के बाद इस बात पर सहमति बनी कि राज्य सरकारें अपनी तरफ से भी प्रयास करना चाहती हैं, तो भारत सरकार को क्यों इतराज हो। 16 जनवरी से जो व्यवस्था चली आ रही थी, उसमें प्रयोग के तौर पर एक बदलाव किया गया।
So everything was fine until the states and even some sections of the media stepped in and prompted the government to change its policy, claims the Prime Minister. Now, this is an extraordinary claim on several levels. And this is we begin our fact check with the first claim that the Prime Minister saying that the states, in a sense, forced the change in the vaccine policy because of their demands. Now, this actually goes contrary to the centre's own reasoning over its new vaccine policy. In fact, in the government's April 19th press release announcing the liberalized vaccine policy, there is no mention of demand by states. In this press release, the government takes credit for liberalizing the policy. In the press release, it says the new policy would augment vaccine production, incentivize vaccine manufacturers, make pricing and procurement of vaccines open and flexible. Not just that, in its affidavit before the Supreme Court, just filed last week, the government makes no reference to states demanding the direct procurement of vaccines. In fact, the centre tells the Supreme Court that all the states wanted was the simultaneous vaccination of the 18 to 44 age group, which is very different from saying that they wanted to buy vaccines directly from the private vaccine manufacturers. Let's look at the second claim that we are fact-checking. That the Prime Minister claims that they were taking back control of the vaccines, the centre is taking back control of the vaccines simply because the states couldn't procure vaccines in time. What's the reality? Was it in fact states not being able to procure vaccines, or was it strong criticism from the Supreme Court which forced the reversal? This is what the Supreme Court, in a bench headed by Justice Chandrachud, said to the centre just a few days ago. It said you must revisit and review your vaccination policy. The policy is arbitrary and irrational. The court sought data and logic behind the government's frankly chaotic vaccine policy. So it was in fact pushback from the court and from multiple state governments that forced this U-turn. Let's look at another claim by the Prime Minister, where he says that if we did not have a made in India vaccine, can you imagine what would have happened to the country? The reality is this: India was amongst the last in the world to place vaccine orders. India only placed orders in January of this year for made in India vaccines. India only initially ordered 1.65 crore doses, a fraction of our projected needs of over 200 crore doses, and it was amongst the last in the world to place vaccine orders. Just look at all the different countries that had placed orders beforehand. Millions of doses of orders from May 2020 onwards. The US, 300 million AstraZeneca doses. The UK, 90 million AstraZeneca doses. This is all in May of last year, by the way. European Union, in August of last year, millions of AstraZeneca doses. Brazil also, August of last year. Australia, September of last year. Japan, July of last year. India, only in January of 2021, comes in with a small order of 1.65 crore vaccine doses. Let's look at another claim by the Prime Minister, where he says that he will distribute vaccines free of cost to the 18 to 44 age group. The reality is that most countries around the world are actually donating or vaccinating their populations entirely for free. So there's nothing new about this. This is something that is happening as par for the course. Okay. Let's go to the panel discussion. Joining us tonight, we have with us PKD Nambiar. He's a political analyst, supports the BJP. Gaurav Vallabh of the Congress is here with us.
Namaskar.
Saravanan of the DMK and Reena Gupta of the Aam Aadmi Party. Now, just wanted to start by asking you, Mr. Nambiar, that governments often find different ways of rationalizing their U-turns and reversals and course corrections, but this is quite extraordinary that the centre or the Prime Minister is essentially taking credit for fixing what was a botched decision in the first place by blaming state governments, when in fact, as we just pointed out, the centre is telling the Supreme Court, and the centre in its own press release is taking full credit for that liberalized policy in the first place.
For the first part of that is that the Prime Minister's speech is today's speech is to the national, or address to the nation. It's a defining moment in this country, which has never been heard, or I mean, we may not have been even Gauravji may not have even expecting something like this to happen today. But I would say that yes, it is a great day in the from the point of view of that free vaccination to all the people and the central government taking into the stock. Now coming to the fact check, what you have done, factually that facts are somewhat incorrect. Yeah, I would say it's absolutely a great day. At least a person like me, I would say that we have been talking about the vaccine policy, irrational vaccine policy. The people have been complaining about this should not have been done.
No, but the irrational vaccine policy was a decision of your government.
No,
it's a decision taken by your government. Now you fixed it. How is it a great day? Wouldn't it have been better for the Prime Minister to say, listen, we made a mistake. We shouldn't have changed it in the first place. We're now going back to the old system.
You haven't heard the full speech of the Prime Minister, I believe. So what he said, that the first policy what the government of India had, the first policy when in the January 16th when the government of India placed the policy before the people, the opposition parties, some of the, including some of the chief ministers were criticizing, and they even went on to say that the free vaccines will be provided, we need to be given the freedom to buy and vaccinate their population by themselves. So it was basically the demand of some section of the people, especially the opposition chief ministers who wanted
Mr.
to have
Nambiar, just hold on a second. First of all, hold on. Mr. Nambiar, we heard what the Prime Minister said. I heard his speech. I played the relevant excerpt for the entire public to hear. The Prime Minister essentially said everything was going fine till the state stepped in and saying that they wanted decentralization of the vaccine policy. I'm saying The centre itself did not say that when they announced the change policy in April. They didn't once refer to states. They took full credit for the change.
Vasu, it
So
is
I'm
all
not
in the
sure how this rationalization holds up. But can I move on now? Because I must bring in the other panelists.
Even the election
Let them
campaigns,
rebut what you're saying.
the opposition leaders, even the election campaigns, the opposition leaders were saying that we will be giving free vaccination, give us azadi de do, hum khud khareed lenge, hamare population ko kar lenge. Why don't you even have some of those bites
khud khareed lenge.
like
Okay, what I'll do is, okay, Mr. Nambiar, here's what I'll do. Here's what I'll do. I'll allow you, when I go to Gaurav Vallabh, I'll allow you to pull up for me specific instances of opposition chief ministers directly saying we want to procure from private manufacturers. I'll give you the time to pull up the evidence, because I'm not sure where that evidence exists. Gaurav Vallabh, respond to that the Prime Minister is simply, he's reversed it, but that's all the fault of opposition parties and their demands.
Vasu, government missed the bus in booking vaccine doses early, approving manufacturers early, procuring and starting vaccinations early. Now better sense has prevailed with regard to only centralized vaccine procurement. The fiasco we can reduce had Government of India listened to our advice little bit early. But every mistake have its own price, Vasu. And I will share few data. Out of 5 worst affected nations in the world, India, China, US, Brazil and UK, India had 3.23% of population which is fully vaccinated, which is 41.3% in US, 10.7 in Brazil and 40.7 in Brazil.
No, but Gaurav Vallabh, come on the point, come on the specific point. One second. Come on the specific point. Did any of your chief ministers or did the Congress party ever say we want to directly procure vaccines?
I want to
which
know,
is the justification
about
being
Congress.
given.
I challenge on in your show, give me any specific statement of any chief minister of our country who is saying that forget about give me license, I will buy from my own resources and will execute. No one had said this. I challenge in your show, if he can name any chief minister of any political party, including BJP, I challenge him.
Yes.
Because enough is, this is a altogether a big lie which Prime Minister is making on national television. And second thing, Vasu, I want to know that what is the blueprint of vaccination?
I will.
Why Prime Minister can't give the dates of what is the date of 100% vaccination?
Okay, we'll come to the blueprint. Gaurav Vallabh, we'll come to the blueprint in a second. We'll come to the blueprint. Allow me. Let me move on because others are also waiting. Your challenge is out there. Mr. Nambiar is hopefully Googling away, and we'll come to him in a second. But first, let me go to Mr. Sharvanan. Okay, Mr. Nambiar, can I come back to you?
All right.
Let me come back to you. Mr. Sharvanan, the fact is that the Supreme Court, Justice Chandrachud-led bench, says your policy is arbitrary and irrational.
Yes.
Give us the rationale for this policy. Reverse the policy. Show us the data of the vaccination procurement. Show us the logic behind the policy. And then you have this announcement.
Yeah. See, this is what the opposition leaders wanted on 12/5/2021. They wrote a letter to the Prime Minister stating that please procure the vaccine centrally. But it has taken a strong rebuke from the Supreme Court for the Prime Minister to act. Why has he kept quiet so long when that was what is demanded? Of course, we floated global tenders. We did that. Tamil Nadu government did that, and of course, few other governments had done that. Why did we do that? We did that because we were not able to trust the union government. They had faulted. You had rightly pointed out that amount of vaccines that has been ordered until March 2021 and 6 crore doses. The biggest joke is that we exported 6 crore doses. Out of 148 crores, we ordered 13 crore to 20 crore doses, and we exported 6 crore doses. So when this is the situation, ask the state governments who are active, they wanted to protect the citizens. That is the reason why we ordered. And when we ordered, the company said, your government, your union government is not given our vaccines any accommodation. They have not given approved our vaccines. Then how are you placing orders with us? This is the reason. We could have succeeded.
Okay.
If the union government has approved those vaccines, we could have succeeded. We would have done a better job than the union government.
Okay, Reena Gupta, before I come to you, just answer the question, did the Delhi government, Chief Minister Mr. Kejriwal, was he someone who asked for direct procurement of vaccines as the, part of this Prime Minister and the BJP's allegation?
Vasu, everything about the central government's vaccination policy or the lack thereof has been flawed from the beginning. And, various national, international experts, be it the Nobel laureate Stiglitz or be it the Lancet, everybody has criticized this policy. And it is only after the Supreme Court's sharp criticism and the Supreme Court actually asking the central government to show the file noting.
But did you ever ask for direct procurement?
No, I'll explain. We never asked for direct procurement, Vasu. There is a difference between procurement, decentralization of procurement and decentralization of distribution. What the Delhi government asked for was give us decentralization of distribution, because Delhi is an urban state and we have an efficient system. We said we are very confident we will be able to vaccinate the whole of Delhi in 3 months. So allow us to open as many centers as possible. And Vasu, this is a policy which has been followed from the time of independence. That procurement of vaccine is done by the union
let me now get back to, you're saying you also did not ask. Okay, you're saying you also did not ask. Let's now go to Mr. Nambiar and see if he can respond to the challenge. Yes, Mr. Nambiar, who are the chief ministers you've come up with who asked for directly procuring vaccines?
In your own channel, during the 5 state elections, we had debate on when Mamata Banerjee said that I will be giving free vaccination to all the population if we brought back to the power this thing. The Chief Minister of Pinarayi Vijayan officially has tweeted and said,
how is that you same as saying direct procurement?
You want me to hear? Then only you will be able to judge my statement.
No. Okay, go ahead. Please say. What did Mr. Pinarayi? What did Pinarayi Vijayan say? What did Pinarayi Vijayan say?
Chief Minister of Pinarayi Vijayan has clearly asked that we will be more than happy. We are capable of. We should be given empowered to buy the vaccine by ourselves. If required, we will be more than happy to do it, and we will give free vaccination. Pull up, you ask your program director, he will be able to pull up some of those media bites to you. If you are not able to understand the Malayalam or Tamil, I will translate for you right away. One. Number 2, there are 2 things which have happened today. Why the opposition people are going back from their own statement?
So essentially, one second, Mr. Nambiar, this is important. Mr. Nambiar, this is important. Hold on. Just a second, Mr. Nambiar. I gave you the chance to come up with a response. Now, essentially, what you're saying is that this government, a government, by the way, which is a very my way or the highway government. So the idea that they will simply yield because 1 or 2 states have brought up a demand is itself quite a surprising claim. But anyway, what you're saying is that this huge vaccine drive, which the Prime Minister says was going brilliantly well until April, was changed simply because Mamata Banerjee may have somewhat said that she wants to distribute free vaccines, and Pinarayi Vijayan said we are capable of distributing free vaccines. On the basis of this, the entire policy was changed. What does that say about the government who you come on to defend? It doesn't speak very highly.
I'll tell you. I am nobody to defend a government, but of course I wanted to defend a government which, if it is a policy of the government is good, why not? We should all nationalist citizens should be defending the government and the policy. I will tell you the one by one, and in fact, it is not necessary for me or for that matter anybody who supports this government to come out. Today, sabki bolti band kar diya ek tarah se Modi ji ne, in terms of he narrated the story from January 16 to till May 1st, how the vaccination policy of the government have been, why there was a change which was made in between.
Mr. Nambiar, as a political analyst, are you telling me if the Supreme Court had not said it's arbitrary and irrational, No, I'm not. You have enough chance to speak, Mr. Nambiar. You know that. You always get enough time.
Vasu, can I come in?
No. I'm saying, Vasu, you are doing an injustice. I'll tell you how. You did a fact check, which I simply love this show because of the fact is what matters at the end of the day. Today, the Prime Minister of the country is coming up and narrating a story one by one, how it has all started, where it all have started, and etc., one by one.
Okay, but we did a but our fact check is. But Mr. Nambiar, our fact check has found many of those claims questionable.
No, actually,
sorry, now I've given you enough time, Mr. Nambiar.
Okay.
Now you can't complain of not getting enough time. In fact, the others have the right to feel aggrieved. Gaurav Vallabh, the fact is that even after this change, the bigger question remains. The Prime Minister says in 2 weeks he'll start supplying, the centre will start supplying to states. But the question still is, where are the vaccines coming from? We're still only able to produce in the range of 28 lakh doses a day. The projected vaccination drive is 1 crore doses a day, which is almost 3 times as many.
Srinivas,
it is also very clearly explained by the Prime Minister in his speech. 7 more plants are going to produce the vaccination.
Okay. 1 second, Mr. Nambiar. Others didn't interrupt you. I don't want to.
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead. Yes.
No, I respect that. Absolutely.
So he had quoted 2 states' name. Mr. Nambiar, the Chief Minister of both the states, although their representatives are not there, but Chief Ministers of both the states were saying that government is not able to give us supply. And that is the problem basically. And I pose a second question to you, that before April, what was the vaccination average? You know, Nambiar ji, अगर बता दूंगा तो अभी आपकी बोलती बंद हो जाएगी. Before April, the vaccination average was less than 20 lakh, which is right now around 25 lakh for last 7 days. You are saying 7 days.
No, don't interrupt, Mr. Nambiar. That's not fair.
April के पहले इससे कम vaccination हो रहा था on an average. This is point number 1. Point number 2. If we are going to vaccinate our population by 31st December, from where we are going to get volumes? What is the delivery schedule? What is the daily vaccination target? Because China is vaccinating 2 crore doses per day, and our vaccination for last 7 days on an average was 25 lakh. And if I take entire duration from 16th January till date, it is around 17
running out of time, Gaurav Vallabh.
कैसे होगा ये?
No, I think
Gaurav Vallabh.
First,
okay, Mr. Sharvanan.
Let us not compare ourselves with
Hold on. Now, Mr. Nambiar, you're interrupting. That's not fair.
Vasu,
Mr. Sharvanan, the fact is, one can, and I'm coming to you also. The fact is, Mr. Sharvanan, that we've just seen Mr. Stalin, your Chief Minister's statement. Overall, though, regardless of the political rhetoric, you welcome the fact that at least the policy has been reversed?
Yes. Yeah, that's what our leader, Mr. M.K. Stalin, has said. He said he welcomes the statement that and the Prime Minister was able to reverse his earlier stand and say 75%. He has also requested the Prime Minister to allow, since he has mentioned several times in his statement that health is a state subject, the Chief Minister, our Chief Minister, requests the Prime Minister to allow us to ensure what conditions, for whom we shall vaccinate. The conditions of vaccination should be entrusted to the state governments. I think that is also now controlled by the union government. We want that also to be gone. Apart from this, the other important factor is there is no rational policy. This has been pointed out by the Supreme Court on how you allot vaccines to the states. Our population is 6%, but we have not got 6% of the vaccines.
Reena Gupta. Reena Gupta, last word. Reena Gupta, last word. Yes.
Yeah, so one part of the policy, the pricing may have been solved to a certain extent, but we still have a huge issue of production of the supply chain management. And the Delhi Chief Minister gave a very good idea that why don't we use compulsory licensing. Even till today, the MOU with Hafkin Institute, which is a PSU, has not been signed. So, whatever exists in the purview of the government, they are not even using that. And, where is the vaccine going to come from? All the foreign manufacturers have already signed forward contracts up to 2023, 2024. So, even today, this vaccination, everybody
where is the vaccine
December
going to come from?
Is a jumla, is wishful thinking.
As the Prime Minister indicated, Reena Gupta, as the Prime Minister indicated, he said we changed our policy because of states So maybe he's going to listen to some of these suggestions from the Chief Ministers. We'll have to wait and see. But we're completely out of time. I know everyone's still dying to extend this debate. We'll come back to the story. Thank you all so much for joining me. We're out of time. Thank you. Good night.